Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome again to our little oratory here at Bishop Eton. And here's our Thursday message for this week. If you're very observant, you may notice that we have a different Paschal candle here this week, okay? This happens to be the Bishop Eton one. We've been using the St Mary's one up until now. And we thought, well, we didn't want to burn that down completely so that by the time we get back into church, there won't be anything of it left. So we're halfway through the Easter period between Easter Sunday and Pentecost, and so we decided to use the Bishop Eton one for the rest of this period up until Pentecost. However, in between those times, we will be celebrating First Holy Communions, or would have been celebrating First Holy Communions. So not this Sunday, but in a week's time, on the 17th of May, there should have been a First Communions, 16th and 17th of May, here in Bishop Eton, with the children from Year 4 from Bishop Eton and many of the children from Carlton House as well, joining us for those celebrations. And then the following week, on the Saturday, we would have had a celebration with the Much Wilton children at St Mary's. And then 2 weeks after that, on the Saturday and Sunday, we would have been having the other celebrations with St Mary's. So altogether, 6 masses covering the 3 schools. I'm very conscious that we're not going to be able to do that when we plan to. But children, I hope this message will reach you, because this message this weekend is not only going out on the parish websites, but the head teachers have said that they're keen to put it out through the school websites as well. So hopefully all of you in the First Communion classes and all the other children through the school and their families who I'm sure want to support you at this time will be praying for you that even though you can't make your First Communion, that our Lord will bless you and strengthen you and fill you with his peace at this time. So let's hope that it won't be too long until we're able to celebrate First Communion with you. And as soon as we can, then obviously we will. And I did a count up, and we're talking about 133 children. So that's a lot of families. 133 families probably, although I think there are 1 or 2 brothers and sisters who are making their First Communion at the same time. Anyway, as we look forward to that, I just wanted to remind you, today, incidentally, is the anniversary of Father Barry O'Toole's death, the first anniversary. So we as a community, we look back and we're sad at losing Father Barry, but you know, we believe that Barry was a good man and that Jesus will be fulfilling his promise. I'm going to prepare a place for you, and that he'd be with our Lord now in heaven, and he's not having to put up with all this carry-on over coronavirus and all that, and hopefully he's praying with us and for us at this time. And along with that, I've reminded you that we've had all these intentions coming in, and I've typed a lot of them up. They're on sheets of paper here, and there are other little bits of paper where people have sent things in, masses asked for and so on. And we're keeping these now all underneath the altar as a reminder to us that we want to pray for all your intentions and stay united with you, as I hope and trust you want to stay united with us. And that's why I set up this little program, if you remember, 6 weeks ago. It's actually 7 weeks ago, I think, today, since I dashed around the schools and suggested that you have your little shrine in the corner of your home, and at 7 o'clock in the evening we make a spiritual communion and are all united in that prayer. And I've suggested during the month of May that you might say a decade of the Rosary as well. But you must feel free, find your own way of using that time to stay united with our Lord. And remember, that's what we are celebrating in Holy Communion. That this is the great sign that Jesus comes and feeds us and lives inside us. And it's true of all the sacraments. They're signs that God is uniting himself with us. We call them sacraments, signs of God's presence, the way of celebrating God's presence. Now, I'm just going to mention this because it was an extraordinary thing that we noticed only yesterday, because this Catholic weekly called The Tablet only arrived yesterday for last weekend. And a few of us read an article in here which upset us a little bit. The article was speaking about spiritual communion and recognised that it had a great value, but then it became rather adversely critical of our great founder, St. Alphonsus. And, well, just like anybody, if you start criticising your dad, and in a sense he's the daddy of all Redemptorists, he founded the Redemptorists way back in 1732, so we weren't very pleased about that. I've actually written a letter to the Tablet challenging what this woman said about St. Alphonsus, because I think she misunderstood him rather badly. And I know one or two of my confreres have done similarly. So we'll see if they publish those letters next week. But anyway, the whole point about the spiritual communion is reminding us that God isn't limited by any barriers that are put up, not even by coronavirus. The Lord can break through. He can break up. Remember, after his resurrection, he just appeared in the room. It didn't matter. Didn't have to open the door. He was just there. And God is, we believe, always with us. And even though there is the problem at the moment that we can't do what we normally do and what he told us to do at the Last Supper, nevertheless, we know that our Lord can break the barriers down. So those of you children who would have been receiving your First Communion, I really am hoping that when we celebrate Mass a week on Sunday, and we remember you, all of you who would have been making communion that weekend, I'll mention by name. And then the following weekend, when we would have been down at St. Mary's, I'll remember you and mention you by name. And then 2 weeks after that, I'll mention those who were going to receive communion that day. And we'll pray that our Lord will bless you and help you to be patient, because that's one of the things you're going to have to be at the moment. Patient and waiting. And sometimes, when we're patient and when we finally get the gift, we appreciate it even more than we would have done if we hadn't had to wait. But in the meantime, I want you to know, all of you, whether you're due to make your First Communion, whether you've already made your First Communion, whether at the moment you're too young to make your First Communion, that our Lord already holds you and loves you and fills you with his life and unites us in our prayer. We make this huge act of faith, thanking God that we do belong to his family and that we can support one another by talking to him about one another, and also by looking out for those opportunities where we can help each other during this crisis. I know a lot of you, all of you I'm sure, are doing your best to do that at the moment. So I offer you that word of encouragement and thank you for all the encouragement that you're sending in to me and to my brothers here in the community. We feel greatly enriched by that. So until we meet at Mass this weekend, God bless you all. And thank you for listening to this little message.